All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Here we are, TGIF. I think we made it to the end of the week. Hey, and we're live on YouTube too. Right on. So welcome to the frivolity. It is 9 o'clock on the West Coast, a couple minutes past the top of the hour. We have on Friday, of course. I thought that was awesome. I woke up this morning and popped into the lounge. People were posting the Top Step video link just to get everybody's day off on a good note. And everybody's like, okay, phew, we got the Hogue Rocker salute. So everybody's good to go to kick ass today. I thought that was totally awesome. That was great. Good stuff. Good stuff. And isn't Hogue a sweetheart? I mean, he's definitely an awesome way to start your day. I mean, he's not gonna bark at you, and he's certainly not opinionated. Nice level-headed start to everybody's day. So that was kind of cool. I should join TRI. Actually, there's enough of us over there that maybe we should reach out to Top Step and ask if Hogue could come and give our gang a nice chat. I've suggested that in years gone by. It's just never really worked out, and I don't really want to harass them. But we've sent a lot of people over there, so maybe it might be something reciprocal. What's his history? Well, I don't know whether we really want to get into a conversation about Hogue here this morning. But anyway, it's just really nice to see everybody gung-ho first thing this morning. Yeah, I suppose if we are... Well, we're not teaching his setup. Keep in mind, I spent years just trying to filter him, right? I mean, Murat, has Hogue ever told you an actual setup that he trades? That's the one thing about Hogue, is he'll never tell you an actual trade ever. He'll just go, well, looks like we're coming into balance and that's an interesting level, right? But so when I do make reference in the school program to things like the Hogue value trade and stuff like that, keep in mind I worked him for a few years to get that information out of him. So I put my time and effort, and if anything, I think he'd be amused. Yeah, he'd be amused that we actually label this. Anyway. All right, so welcome to the frivolity. Interesting start to today's video. My apologies, everybody. Friday, today is Friday. Like I said, just a little bit past the top of the hour. It's about halfway through the month of May. This is actually an options expiry day, third Friday of the month, which means we got the big sort of monthly institutional players moving the market. And I don't think it should really surprise that what we're seeing just of late is sort of down opens and then springbacks. Now, keep in mind the econs coming out day after day after day are absolute train wrecks. And, of course, I think we had employment data come out overnight. I don't know, was that? No, I guess it wasn't employment data. What the hell came out overnight? I think it was retail sales, if I'm not mistaken. So, and usually this is, in years gone by, I've seen this happen repeatedly. So we often get like a really ugly number that comes in very, very early in the morning. So that's sort of the sell the news scenario. But the interesting thing here, I've seen this years and years gone by. We talk about the New York kill zone. And what you often find happens is that, people wake up, oh my God, the sky's falling. And I mean, considering the United States economy is a consumer-based economy, that is exactly what you do not want to see when you're running a consumer-based economy. But following that horrible headline number, and that's a pretty damn ugly number, you'll notice that as sort of the morning progressed, numbers were coming out, but they actually weren't coming out as bad as people were previously expecting. So you notice the New York Empire State Index came out actually a little bit better than expectations. And then, thinking about New York kill zone and that kind of stuff, quite often I find, and, write this down if you're not aware of this, But usually we get some big ugly number that comes out, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, my time, adjust it to your local time. And then, we always say don't trust the first hour of retail sales, retail trading. We usually get out a report, and quite often on the heels of a retail sales or employment report, at about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, they come out with another report, and a lot of the times it is this Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, and you see that actually the numbers came out a little bit better than expected. I know that's crazy. What? This is insane. But you can see, like, current conditions came in 83. Market was looking for 75. Inflation expectations came in a little bit higher. Wow, that's weird. Consumer sentiment, they were expecting readings down in the 60s, came in the 70s. And so you often get this sort of, one reason why we get sort of the New York kill zone trap is because you get a big ugly econ, or maybe even a really big bullish econ, and then about a half an hour after the retail market opens, you get an econ that can actually change the tide. So I think to a certain degree that's what happened here this morning. So you can see market just absolutely cratered on the open. Had sort of a dead cat bounce, and then there's that sort of University of Michigan number. But gee whiz, look at what we're getting here. These actually kind of look W-ish. So, yeah, and, we were kind of talking about that earlier with Julian. He really doesn't like to trade off of fundamental drivers. He would prefer to trade the charts. And in a weird sort of way, sometimes you can have these kind of situations where, the market opens up absolutely horrifically down, but actually goes through the process of bottoming, and, we might just rally into the end of the day. And then also, too, remember, we had this conversation about the options market and where is in their best interest. This is the data. I haven't updated this, so this is the data from yesterday. So let's see where the heaviest open interest, right? We were talking about they'd really love to get the market above this 285 number because that's the biggest sort of open interest here. And of course, they absolutely do not want the market below that 280. I have a hard time conveying this message to the community, so I'll say it again. I sure hope some of you listen. Try and remember that a lot of retail does calls, covered call strategies, those kind of things. Not a lot of people, not a lot of retail write put options because in essence it means that I'm going to have to buy something. So as a result, I think you actually can glean more information from the puts than the calls. If you do see a massive call open interest and the market actually is above there, then actually what to me that says is actually the market wants to unload a shitload of stock to all those covered call writers. So on balance, I think we should start with the puts, and you can clearly see 127 expires worthless, 52, 21, 120, 32, 99, right? All of these options are going to expire worthless, and like good 90+% of these options are written by institutional players. So, with that said, let's refresh this and let's see where these boys are on the hook. Based on where this data as of yesterday's close suggests that they really would prefer the market not go out. So let's see if anything changed there. So we're sitting 283.07. And let's see what we got here. The 285, still the heaviest open interest here locally. There's that 280. I really think they want to keep it above that number. That's the biggest number here, and usually that's sort of like their sort of anchor, if you will. If we look at the calls, you could see 280 calls going to expire in the money. There is this big chunk 285, and I did see some people sort of saying the absolute maximum pain to all option holders would probably be if they could close the market at, like, say, 285.05 or something. So then that way, these options all here expire, either at or slightly in the money, and there's no major sort of implication to the options writers. You can even see the 285s right now are $2.50. Somebody's actually in there doing business at $2.50. Right now, if the market goes out, bang, right here, you can see that basically that's the intrinsic value of the option. So anyway, point of the matter here, I actually think, looking at this, that they have a vested interest to get this thing above this 285 level. And then, interestingly enough, we actually look at the price action. Here's a nice little W there at about 283.5. Can they get the market up to actually just print unchanged on the day? Well, I think it's probably not a bad proposition. It's not. In fact, here this says 284 here now on this cash market. So they only need another buck here, and they hit that home run. Thought that was interesting. Today is Friday, and on Fridays we actually have a nice special treat. We have Colin, who is a site OG, and actually he was an analyst at one firm, and now he's actually joined another firm, and he's on board with their analysis community. So we get a super, super nice treat here on Fridays. Colin comes on the call here and just sort of tells us what's on his mind, what he's looking at, anything to sort of consider heading into the weekend. And also, too, this gives him a great opportunity to shill his free newsletter service. So by all means, if you have some sort of link for us to sign up to your free newsletter for your new digs, a gig or whatever, feel free to pass that along to the community. So, Colin, are you here, sir?
Good morning.
All right. You ready to rock this thing?
Yes. Fired up today, as you can imagine, with Bitcoin sitting at some very interesting levels. It's a little early in the show, but I am ready to go if you want to.
You know me, I never have a loss for words. If you want, I can blab on for another half hour, 45 minutes if you want.
You know what? We often run overtime. Why don't we start early today and see where we end up?
All right. And really, I would prefer just to give you free reign. Right now on the Hangouts, we're not screen sharing. Did you want to screen share today?
Yes, so I'm going to pull that up now.
All right. I mean, I can. Why don't I do this? I'll just give a little simple overview of what I'm seeing right now on the corn, and then we'll just a simple overview, and then we'll head on into you. How does that sound? Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Okay, so sorry everybody, nice little tease, but at least we got Colin ready to go here. So let's say two or 3 minutes. Well, it won't be very long.
Cool.
So in the corn, what I happen to be seeing right now is we're coming up, obviously, up into some very interesting levels, interesting Lepre-Kvark conversations, 88.6s. And then inside bars. The question ultimately, for that sort of, where's that image? I think it's over here, isn't it? Yeah, this sort of what does the post-halvening market kind of look like? The messages that I've been putting out here, I thought it was incredible last night. We just had absolutely stunning lower time frame setups firing all over the place, and it was a lot of fun putting the tweets out and stuff. I don't know where the hell I put all those charts around here somewhere. I suppose I don't need to get into that too much, but it was a lot of fun posting the Gartleys and stuff from last night. Lower time frame setups. I don't know whether it's in your guys' best interest to get too, especially new people to trading. Maybe don't get wrapped up in like 15-minute charts. It can get a little bit hectic. Darn, of course I can't find the chart I want to show you. Sorry, everybody. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere around here. But anyway, point of the matter here is I've been sort of suggesting to people that I was very interested in hunting shorts in this reload short zone. I think actually a new inside bar fired there last night. And I'd love... Oh, here we are. This was the chart I wanted to show you guys. And, we had a number of harmonics all come in yesterday, and it was really cool tweeting all this stuff out. because this is such a good example of a harmonic setup. You know, you have to be on the ball and you have to know what the hell you're doing if you're trading harmonics. Level oneers, don't even consider this shit. You need a lot of time. We don't even get into harmonic trading until level 3 because it's very high octane, high stress stuff. So, you know, the harmonic people were coming in and hitting this 78.6 blindly, and wow, did they ever get a hell of a trade off there last night. The way that I've interpreted harmonics is you hit the harmonic level, take partial profits at 38.2, move your stop to scratch on remaining. Did that get stopped out? I'm not quite sure. But interesting how all we did was revisit that entry level, and then we just absolutely puked out here. And this setup I thought was fascinating because it actually started to resonate over time, where you know you have these sort of smaller setups, and then what I noticed was if you just zoomed out, and these were the tweets that I was putting out last night. You know, this just lower time frame day traders. There was the harmonic as it came in last night. Violent, quick move to partial profit level, then huge dump. But what I noticed here was this double top, of course. Now, if we zoom out to a little higher time frame, now we're doing a 4-hour. Gee whiz, there's a harmonic right there as well. And here is that little 15-minute chart harmonic. And, you know, this is really, really good information for you guys to really understand that when we come into really, really important levels, I see this happen a lot, where you get sort of, and, you know, the way I sort of phrased it in the tweet was, this almost looks like it's almost like Mandelbrot, right? And everybody who's taken the level 1 understands the Mandelbrot zoom and the equation, where it's almost like this is what, and we've been talking about this, 88.6, top of the range, double bearish divergence on MACD, blah, 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 blah. All we needed was some structure, and fascinating how basically the market set this up. So I do believe that this is in play right now, and the only way this can be broken is we have to go up and take out these highs. So as it stands right now, I'm leaning closer and closer and closer to the idea that a top is in. The only problem here is, off of dailies now, really zooming out, this is not structure that I can work with. It's just too big. That's what she said. So that sort of leads me along the lines of this kind of thinking. And these are the tweets that I put out here basically this morning saying I've got location, I've got indicator confirmation, now I need structure. What I'd actually like to see is I'd like to see volatility come out of price and us just calm down a bit. And then if we start getting the M's, Brian's going to be thinking down. So that's sort of where I'm standing right now. I thought it was fascinating level there last night. Last night, price action was a trader's paradise. But I don't have enough anecdotal evidence off the higher time frames to really say that, yep, we're done, we're headed down. As it stands right now, guys, call a spade, no bullshit to you guys. Right now, there's your top end of the range, there's your bottom end of the range. We're in a playground. And if this does resolve bullishly, and I saw people in the lounge posting, hey, we might be getting bullish bots setting up here. Show me 3 higher lows, show me W's, show my indicators. Those bear divs have played out. And I could actually realistically expect to see a rally back up top to the top of this megaphone. So I'm not ready to say that, all right, we go straight down from here. We're not at that stage yet. But at the same time, too, there's no way in hell I could be a buyer here as it stands right at the moment. So that's sort of my overview of crypto. And I think, in the Daily Brief Recap, you're going to be seeing a lot of this sort of same message. And I'm seeing a lot. I'm seeing the gold market. Well, actually, gold's working. That's way higher now. But the bond market, the U.S. dollar, the stock market, even to a certain degree, the oil, kind of parked in a range. And we're just sort of saying, okay, the economy's being sort of reopened. All right, now what? Oh, boy. And I think, for a guy like me, I have to let this play itself out. And then, should I get nice little short setups in this area, I'll probably short it, but I don't have anything to do just as of yet. Okay, I think I'm done my rant. Chewed up another 5-10 minutes there for you, Colin. Having said that, Colin's going to go all in on the long side here, and suggest I'm full of horse shit.
Find me a short RLZ and I will long it. No, just kidding. I'm actually short. I'm actually shorter at this exact moment than I have been in a long time.
Oh wow!
Because I mean, even through some of the downside we saw before, and that's not to say like I'm more sure that we're going down. It's just that I'm actually taking action on my spot exposure right now, because let me see. Let me get it together here. Get it together, kid. Let's go to a higher time frame to start. Yeah. Okay, first off, the daily. It's not really the one I wanted. That'll do. Y'alls. Okay, so let's get the daily up here. Yeah, I mean, I should really preface that this is a bullish looking chart. I think the daily is gaining levels. We gained here, moved up, we broke up through this level, we lost it, regained it, and we've retested it. So in this sense, I still think we're bullish. We're not even quite stupid anymore on the Willie. But I am short, and I have futures asks set somewhere here. Got all confused while you were talking there, looking at stuff. But let's see.
Futures or forwards?
Futures, yeah.
Oh,
no,
yeah?
the Binance Bitcoin Tether futures are.
That's not a futures contract. Thank you very much, man. Somebody's got to fucking send this guy a memo and correct him, please.
They call them futures,
and they are, like there's unregulated exchange. But if I could take them to court,
futures.
And that's just it's just plain wrong. That's the worst part about that. It's terrible.
Stop making fun of me, Brian.
No, I'm not. No, it's not you, and that's the problem, right? Is that
no? I'm teasing. That was my joking voice. But so I am here short. Asks are up here. I missed by $10 the other day, like last night, I should say. So a little salty. I'm not actually short on the futures yet, but I did. This is my spot short. I remember last night I was with you and Fred in the lounge. And so, I mean, look, this is 3.85%. So I am going to lose 3.85% of the Bitcoin that I shorted if we break out the top and I'm wrong. I'm okay with that because this downside target is just the beginning. Like this is probably where I would set a trailing to, like for spot where it's like 1x. I would probably not even, I might buy a little back here. Like I obviously have to revisit at that point, but there's, the targets potentially, if this is a higher time frame pivot, which I think it might be. I'm actually leaning that way, despite what I said about this kind of being bullish. I'm actually leaning towards this being like 60-70% chance that this is like our high time frame pivot. And again, if it's not, we've got invalidations here, and it's like, okay, on we go.
I'd love to do a statistical study. This should be a study once Jord's got the site up and running. If Willie is stupid and we have a confirmed bearish MACD divergence through the zero line, what is the statistical probability that the market goes down? Because in the face of those two elements, I think the statistical probability that we go down is actually really high.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I'd just be really curious to see what the data says.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, your double D chart last night and the conversation we had along with Fred is what got me thinking about my spot exposure. I just thought, you know what, why sit in it? I wouldn't try to like, short each move on the way up. It's not really healthy, but this is one I've been waiting for quite a while, right? I actually did manage to stay long through most of this. I got a nice relonged off here, relonged off here. So I've been longing. I've been doing well. I'm happy to hold on to some of those gains. And again, selling spot here, I'm not really risking USD. I'm risking losing some of my Bitcoin, which I don't like because I think we're going into a big bull cycle. But, point is, I'm setting up to the short side. Invalidations are above. And, sure, they could get wicked and wrecked and whatever. But at least I'm back in, and then I'll just reconvene then. There's always risk. Right now, this is what I'm looking at. And, I've been looking at this actually quite a while, like basically this whole week.
Big friendly round number?
Big friendly round number. Yeah. I mean, that's really like the biggest, friendliest round number in crypto, right? I mean,
I like big
10K.
fat round number.
Oh, big fat round number. Oh, no. I'm a gym teacher, man. We
I
can't
know
use
you're
that
so
word.
politically correct. It kills me.
Yeah, can't use that word in gym class, so I just use friendly. Big fucking round number.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, we can't go
So,
there.
Forget, I'm a kindergarten teacher, all right?
Yeah.
So, I got to keep my
That'll
friendly
go
words
over
in.
well with the parents.
Yeah, big fat fucking round number. Get out of here, kid. So we're up in the short RLZ of a short RLZ, right? We're looking at that sort of RLZ within. So there's the larger picture. We came down, and through all this, it was like, okay, let's start thinking about shorts and taking profits when we get back up there. We are back up there. Not only are we back up there, we broke down heavily, crawled back up into its own little short RLZ. And if you zoom right in, I guess we're actually into sort of a third, right? So I was going really fractally with these RLZs. So, we're in the big RLZs up here, bounce down, we're up into the RLZ of that. And then after last night's breakdown, I was like, screw it, I'm going to go for the RLZ of that. So we have an RLZ within an RLZ within an RLZ.
Totally.
And I missed my friggin' ask by $10. I even front ran this. I think it says 9738. I think I front ran it at like 9734 or 32, and it hit at like 722. So I am not in this yet. As you can see, I've really
shot.
Yeah, I've really micromanaged it, and I still think we have a shot. I mean, we got the 4-hour close just now.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something, and I apologize for cutting you off, but this is actually a really good point, and I think I wanted to mention it. Peter Arnold, I think it was, shared a really cool video lecture yesterday about the difference between price risk and information risk. And I actually put the video in the library, so you go and check out under, I think it's third-party videos or whatever. I thought it was a really, really good video, and everybody should watch it. And this is an interesting let me just finish this thought here, Colin, then I'll shut that hell up.
Yeah, no worries.
So this is a really interesting conversation right now on Bitcoin about sort of information risk versus price risk. And, when you watch that video, it's going to be sort of one or the other. But actually, as professional traders, what we do is we try to strike a balance in between. So think of, the setups like El Tangonator, waiting for the MACD div, waiting for Willie to be stupidly overbought, waiting for M's. Think of all that as price risk. We're waiting for the market to give us levels that tell us that, yep, this thing has topped out. Now, at the same time, in the back of your mind, exactly what Colin just said here. Look, I've got all of these criteria that are setting up, the setups coming in. We could always inject a bit of information risk by working orders in things like reload zones, where you are going to take a shot at a specific level. So I highly encourage everybody to watch that video. Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing it. I thought it was really, really good stuff. Total pro shit here, right? Separate the chaff from the wheat, and really the pros from the amateurs. So if you reckon yourself a pro, go watch that video. And of course, it's everything that we do here at TRI. And here is an excellent analogy where Colin is actually doing both. He's doing both the price risk, trying to figure out levels and information from the market that confirms that this is a top. And he's also working information risk in that he's working orders at things like reload zones within reload zones within reload zones. So, rant done. Highly encourage everybody to watch that video. And try and think, when you watch that video, try and think of how at TRI we combine both price and information risk to create awesome trade ideas.
Beautiful. And if you could repost that, and I'll lay it into my channel just for safekeeping. I'd like to watch that too.
Yeah, I can't really endorse the person who did the presentation. I don't really know who they are, but let's see, where the hell is it? Third party.
Yeah, if the video is good, if the info's good, it doesn't really matter, right?
I just posted it in the lounge.
Oh, you already beat me to it. Way to go, Kevin. All right, awesome. Thank you, Kevin. So, and thank you, Peter, for posting that. I thought that's great. 1 + 1 = 3. Information, right? We can't go wrong if we all work together to be better traders. Okay, Brian, shut up.
All right, back to my rant. But no, that's I love the interludes, and I mean, I basically said my piece for this setup. longing, we were getting long down here, but for the longest time, if you watch my Twitter, it's like a snail's pace. I don't trade a whole lot. I've learned over the while that I'd rather the larger pivots. I mean, even last night, I spent an hour and a half. I got out of bed because my price alert went off. I should show. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, like on the hourly dump last night, I had an alert here. My price alert went off, and so like I got out of bed, and I ended up being up till like 1:30 with you guys in the lounge trying to set this up. I mean, and then I get this nice tool, which if you're new to the site, check this out. One of our site members, Casper, made this. You can do all your entries and that. So like I do this, I get my portfolio, size, risk, all that stuff. You can put it in, and it gives you your average entry and how much you should buy of something based on how much your stop loss distance and all that. Well, this takes me like so long. I don't know how these day traders just like fire a short and a long and then put in their stop after they get a naked position open. How do they size it? Like I guess you could do it. It's too stressful for me. Yeah, much faster calculator. So, I mean, it's all sort of how you want to skin the cat. But for me personally, this I spent an hour and a half just getting all my levels and kind of nitpicking. And this has really been one I've been waiting for since this dump. Right, I was on Twitter. I was actually on a call with my buddy watching this live, going like, "Holy shit!" Right, and it's here. Then 5 minutes later, it's here. You're like, "Oh!" Like, finally at a point where I don't care. Like, I'm not stressed about it. I see the lines and the levels. I know what's happening. I'm liquidating some longs, thinning out the market. It's going to probably bounce, almost certainly. Right? You never like to say what's going to happen, but we knew. Come on. This is a high probability. This isn't just going to disappear forever. So it's fine. And then all week, instead of longing here and thinking about that, which I journaled about, if you're so sure it's coming up here and you're waiting up here, why not hunt structure and ride it up too? So sure enough, it played out. Because of course, what if it gets up here and then your short gets blown out and you're like, well, I missed my long. So, my journal this week was like, if you've got this idea that you're coming here, think even one step ahead of that. How could you ride it to the setup you already see coming? So I've been waiting for this. We got the RLZ. So I think it's going to crap out. I still think I'm going to get my fill. In fact, I'm not even too sure that I won't just get blown out as well. I think 10,000 is such a nice number. The whole world's probably got stops sitting up there. So if we are going to blow this out and go into a midterm pivot, why not, grab that liquidity? So I am prepared to take that hit and, find a new way on the way down if we're going to do that. That's something I have to be, willing to accept, and I am. So that's it. And I think it's worth mentioning, I got flashy new charts this week. I'm on a trial working with a company. It's a really cool project, actually. I'd heard about it before. It's called Hero Platform. And initially posturing as sort of the daily fantasy of crypto trading. If you do any sports daily fantasy and stuff like that, you'd know a bit about what that's all about. And they started off with this sort of game, I guess, if you will, or gamified way of trading, where you're like, basically you're just betting 50-50 on the outcome of the next candle. And you can play, you can play different time frames. So you could be like, I played one on the other day on the daily, because I like my high time frames. But just thinking like in terms of, and then if everyone's on the long side, then obviously the short side pays out more and you get your little multipliers. Kind of a fun little thing, but they're actually got a whole bunch of other stuff planned. And I won't speak to any of that because I honestly don't know enough about it. But it's a really interesting platform. And so I've been invited on to do some content for them and do maybe even some streams and some other stuff. So like lots of little things cooking up. Really excited about it. And you'll notice already, for those of you who are in my channel, like my charts are looking a lot cleaner. Not this one necessarily, but because now I'm not, I'm sharing it more for an audience that doesn't necessarily know what all these things are, like RLZ. So you'll just see a little bit more clarity, and that's actually giving me an opportunity to review my own TA. Like last night, you noticed that I missed this like jumbo divergence that we had going on, and I actually wrote, no sign of divergence. I was like, oh God. Right, so it's putting
in fact, you probably should go back to that chart and change divergence confirmed.
Yeah, I did.
Right there, it says potential bearish divergence forming.
Well, yeah, because this hasn't broken below here, wouldn't it have to?
No, it's just the middle. Yeah, it's just right there. Yeah, right there. As long as it breaks through that, that's a confirmed.
Okay, so I thought no red here. So then you have to go back to the last red, no?
No, just M's and W's. Can you see the
Okay.
M?
Yeah, so it just broke below the midline then basically, and that's confirmed?
Just take your drawing tool and draw a line up to the highest peak of the MACD, then down to the middle, then back up to the next lower higher peak, and then down through the middle there. That's a big M. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I thought it was about breaking like the previous red. So that's good notes for me.
No.
And this is why I like to hang out with you, Brian, because I always learn something. It'll be 3 more years, and I'll still be getting some of these, and that's good stuff.
Always a bonus.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I got my journal on my left screen here. I'll fire that in there later because one thing a day that I learn is a good quota.
What to me what I'm seeing, and I see this a lot, is what do you think the easier trade is to do here? I think the easier trade is to go and buy, say, in Bitcoin Mint. I think the harder trade here is to actually short. So, ironically enough, I actually think the short is the right trade here.
Yeah, and I think, me, I kind of frequent some of these other trader chats with people who don't really trade with a plan, sort of like a public proxy room. And I was getting a lot of that sense too, that people are just talking about, but all these violent dumps, that's just a sign of a bull market and all this stuff, like all this like pure hopium stuff that people are still buying these dips with hopes to break out, which again, it very well could, but I think you're right. I don't think most people are seeing the bearish signals here. And it actually reminds me, I want to go over here to the summer pivot last summer. Let's just get a fresh chart. Throw a template on. I'm kind of hooked on these colors now. I just really like them. My charts just seem dull now. But if you go back to this pivot, I very distinctly recall this pivot up here. And even I was like, it was so bullish through the spring. And people had been wrecked, so many times trying to short this, right? We had the 6K crew coming in, trying to short. They got blown out instantly. Then all this chop around consensus and through June, and then that got wrecked and blown. And, you could argue if you zoomed in here that this looked like a pivot, right? You had your M come in, you had your breakdown, but then it just came and then washed everyone out. So by here, I think there was a lot of flavor like of shorting was just taken out of the market. Mm-hmm. So when we did get that dump down, which, obviously looking back was a much more, pronounced dump, and we came up into this short RLZ, I very distinctly recall the conversations we were having. And even I was saying like, if I was looking to short, I'd be looking here, but, I'm not, because I was so annoyed and done trying to short this thing.
Yeah.
And, sure enough, it crapped out, but we did manage to get a nice, we got our second chance here. The RLZs are very forgiving. The algos tend to bring you back up as soon as you're short here. They squeeze you out and blah, blah, blah. So, but this sentiment that we're feeling here is like, again, it's hard to quantify as far as like a trading plan goes, but I'm just surfing these channels and I'm getting a lot of the same vibes that I got here.
That would be really cool data to sum up. Maybe like we should do like Google searches or something like that. My hunch is that when the public, of course, is rah bull, we got to be thinking the other way. And when they're rah bear, like, for our fun little plan that we have here locally with Shane and Andrew, I think our general consensus is we won't go back in and buy our Bitcoins back until we start seeing wrecked talk. And we start seeing mass liquidation talk. And then it's like, okay, well, we can start slowly going and accumulating this shit back again.
Yeah, and sometimes I try to engage with these people, and I'll post like a chart like this or something, and they'll be like, and then they get into it. They're like, well, do you really think we're dumping? Because look at this, and they're printing money and all this bullish, the macro bullish narrative comes at me. And I sometimes I get into that, and then I realize, first of all, it's not my prerogative to make people believe what I think. I don't, I stopped caring about trying to convince people, but also like it's just a waste of energy. But,
I told you about my prop firm guys, right? Prop firm guys are like, Brian, put the God complex away. Just forget about trying to change the world. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, like I post things, I try to be thoughtful and reasonable with things that I share in those channels, but I also like, guys will come at me and they're just like, well, you're clearly just a bear turd. I'm just like, well, okay, but like, whatever, do your thing. I can't change your mind. People seem to forget how quickly narratives can change, right?
Yeah.
And narratives tend to be driven by price action. So if this does dump down here, you better believe the next, people have called me that, Colleen, every time I'm short, or the opposite if I'm long. It's annoying, not a good word. So, but as you get down here, suddenly, there's new news articles coming out, and we're talking about minor capitulation and the FATF coming in and shutting down exchanges. Like, those narratives already exist potentially, but we won't hear about them until there's this. Or, we're going to run up here and it's Paul Tudor Jones and his buddies that are buying it up.
Yeah, I mean, that was the worst. The public right now in their brain is, well, Mr. Big Fat Hedge Fund Manager said the other day Bitcoin's going to $1 million. So fuck you, Beartard. That kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah, and so I like to get short
call you from
when I am looking stupid, if that makes sense. To that circle of people, to those sort of people who just show up in the channels and say, my friend said to long it, what do you think? Like that crowd that doesn't really know what they're doing, and they're just flowing through narratives and following news or whatever it is. When they think I'm wrong, or when I feel wrong hanging out with them,
you're probably right.
I'm starting to notice that's actually a really good thing, and it's actually hard to train yourself to do that, because it's so human nature to want to be together on something.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I love about TRI. When I first got to TRI, I'd be nervous. We'd all be on the same trade. I'd be like, man, this is risky. Everyone's short, but we are a different breed here. And, we tend to have more sound analysis, less of that sort of moon boy talk. And so, if you find yourself on the right side of a trade with somebody like Daniel or Fred or Josh or any one of these guys, Brian, Julian, could talk about them all day. Kevin, there's some OGs here that if you're on the side of the trade with a group of them, I feel really comfortable. But if I'm on the right side of a trade in those public channels, I get real nervous. And right now, I think you're right. I think they're long. I think they're buying dips. And that's why I wrote that on this chart, because this really is that decision area, right? It's going to be the buy the dippers against the sell the bouncers.
Yeah.
Who's going to overpower who? My buddy Jack, his analytics suggest in his mind that the supply is drying up, and that we are headed higher. So, I mean, he's very smart. I respect him as a trader and an analyst, and he thinks we're heading higher. So it's not like there's any guarantees here, but all my analysis points to down as the higher probability play, so I'm short. So
I like the idea here, just simply, people, let's let the market tell us, right? That sort of price risk or information risk. Why don't we just let the market tell us? I like the idea of people strapping in hedges right up against the top end of the range. You got a pretty small window where the market's going to tell you you're right or wrong. So I really don't mind the idea of strapping on shorts just to cover your ass up top here. If you want to buy a put option, it's not a bad idea. You want to trade setups off lower time frames, totally cool. And if the market, on Colin's chart here, if we happen to put in a third low here that's going to be higher, then, Brian's going to be like, well, maybe the price risk is actually telling us maybe we should let the market tell us what it wants to do here before we go and make any massive bets.
I could totally see us, chopping around here, washing it out, and then just continuing on. I mean, the other thing you got to remember is through the bull market of 2017, we talked about this last week. I was new, so I didn't really know, what was. I thought it was normal to, I was like, of course Bitcoin's going up. It's going to, it's going $1 million. But there was traders in certain channels I was in, and they're just like, man, this thing's just a steam engine. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. And you could just see, in retrospect, these are guys who were doing this, right? They're trying to short all these pivots. And in that cycle, I mean, it just didn't stop. It would come down, it would come up to highs, it would bounce around, and then it would blast through, and it just kept blasting and blasting. And there was guys trying to short it from 1,800 all the way up to 20K.
Are we in that same market state?
And that's the thing. I don't think we're there. I think we're 2016, if anything, if you have to, instead of 2017. And I've also read some compelling stuff that suggests that these cycles are actually going to be getting longer. So it's if you're thinking of 4-year cycles, well, now maybe you're thinking 5 or 6 years. And there was some, I can't get into the details of that because I don't really remember them, but the gist of it was that there's potential for these cycles on the log scale to be drawn out a little longer as we get through the adoption curve. So if that's the case, this is 2015, right? Maybe we're going to go into some ranging chop Vegas under 20K for the next 2 years. Either way, just trading setups, and this is one I've been waiting on for a while, so I'm excited. A little sad that I missed this entry, but I really do think that the weekend will be friendly in that sense, because people shorting here tend to get squeezed. Is my thoughts on it anyway. So I'm not going to adjust them.
What I've noticed lately, I've seen this, folks, is they, them, those guys, people we hate, they seem to be moving the market right after the retail close. We saw it happen last Friday. We saw it happen just a day or two ago. Actually, I guess yesterday. As soon as the retail market closes in New York, get ready for a move in Bitcoin. So, what is it? It's 9:45 right now. New York closes in about 3 hours. My hunch is probably not going to see a hell of a lot here for the next 3 hours. And then, in that window, we'll probably see some sort of movement. But for whatever it's worth, I've just
and this is like on the higher time frame what I'm watching for the daily close. If we get a daily close below here, again, my spot has been hedged out, so I'm okay in the USD sense. But I would like to get USD futures short, just to be able to ride this. I mean, hey, if we're gonna have a consolidation summer, or even just like a little check of these levels and then move up this curve, who knows? But
based
I like the setups
here
now.
Is that a Gann angle coming off the top there, or those trend
lines?
This
red is the trend line. Yeah. This is the Gann angle here.
So look how price came right into that angle last night and bounced off it. So clearly that is a massive reference point. And probably if we lose that, you're probably going to dip down into your arc there. But
and you've got this Gann horizontal here that held us up at 9.7. So there's some confluence. I've got this chart on for a while now. It's a 3-day.
Cool chart.
Yeah, I think it's based on the 3-day downtrend from last year. Yeah. So one thing I want to pull up today is
Murat and Seb would like that chart.
Yeah, I always think of Murat when I get my GANs going. BTC Dom. So I put this together yesterday for the Twitter account for Hero, and it's kind of a cool little study as far as why I'm not looking at alts right now. I've sort of restructured when I look at them, and after really diving into this dominance chart and kind of applying the risk on, risk off sort of thinking that you have applied to the market with your daily analysis, this is when I want to be thinking about alts. Why, when Bitcoin is trending up against the whole rest of the market, would I be diving into alt charts? Now, there is always a bull somewhere, and I think even now we're seeing that in what is considered my risk-off window. Let me get some examples, right? I think OMG pumped yesterday, got a nice rally. Maybe some news, actually. I think I heard something about news-driven. So there is moves happening, right? We had TNT last week. What a dump. That's crazy. I'd love to know the story there.
Holy moly.
Yeah, right? I think I was talking about it too, how I missed my 786. Well, good thing
you got it now.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had that free position, and I would have been reloading. So there's a shout out to the little old ladies.
Were they interesting how that previous low, really the bottom there, did that hold?
Yeah.
So that to me says that whoever was playing this, they loaded up on that little W right there. They did the pump, and then they literally brought it right back to where they started their little ramp from.
And we haven't seen something like that really since Matic
that's
in the spring.
Man.
I mean, it's that's almost criminal. Identical, right? Right.
Was that one of those Palm Beach pumps?
TNT is a Palm Beach coin. Yep. Although
somebody should really call those motherfuckers out on this. That is criminal.
Yeah.
What's going on there? That is blatantly criminal.
I mean,
that's
who
market
knows?
Manipulation outright.
But now I don't know. I don't know who else holds TNT. There's tons of VC funds floating around some of these projects. I'll tell you this: I sat down with Tika at that conference 2 years ago, and we chatted, and of course I'm asking him these questions, and there's all this speculation that he just loads these things up and then calls them and then dumps them, and he just laughed. His whole story was, and not to go on about him too long, but his whole story was that through the dot-com boom and all this stuff and the 2008 market crash, he said he sold too early, he didn't get long enough, he was blah blah blah. So for this, what he considers generational cycle, he's laughing at people who think that he's doing these, shitty little pump and dumps. He's like, honestly, Colin, I've got my crypto spread out in, bank accounts like around the world and different private keys, this and that. He's like, I buy these things over a year and then I write the report over a few months and then I post it. He's like, the idea that I would be, selling the bounce on these things for quick gains. He's like, it's just, he owns like 6 buildings, 5 businesses. Like, he's like, it's just not what I'm trying to do here. But that's what he said. It seemed genuine to me. My read on him was that he was being honest, but he also sounds like such a greasy shill when he talks. So I can't even watch his videos anymore. But who knows what this dump was about? I wish they did it to data.
If that happened in the stock market, the lawyers would be going fucking ape shit right now.
Yeah, and so, I mean, but again, who maybe it's a partner that had a bunch of tokens that just got unlocked and they decided they want out because it's Corona. Like, who knows? I'm not going to speculate, but it does look pretty bad.
That looks
I think his announcement of this actually was way back too. It wasn't his most recent. I don't know though. I can't speak to that. I will say this. I'm still waiting on data. I wish he would pump and dump that one because it's a good project and I want some, but I'm not buying it till it comes back, and I don't think it's coming back just yet. Of course, TNT's one I wanted to. Now I don't know. I don't trust that chart, so I'm going to leave that for a little bit. If it is anything like Matic in markets in general, this is a big fear thing, so it's probably going to consolidate for a while. Not in a rush. Point is, there are some alts moving, some alts staying still. I think even FTM, the alert that I set on the air last week, fired yesterday, so let's pull that up. Yeah, so it did poke above that W level that I had set the alert on. Hasn't closed above it, so I'm not going to get too excited yet. So, there's some things brewing in the alt market. However, if I can find that DOM chart, we are in what I'm calling, sort of a risk off. I left the question marks there to kind of get people like leading into their own conclusion. But if we have bullish market structure on Bitcoin dominance, it's been rallying. It has hit its high time frame downtrend. It's kind of coming down and it's come up into a potential fail. So yeah, it may break here. And when that closes, I'm back into like a new window. So just say it just comes right down and breaks here. Then this would be like my little risk off. And then I'd have a new risk on window. And if you zoom out, I mean, there's room here, right? We got the downtrend, the downtrend, the downtrend. It could just really crap out. There's your alt season back down to these RLZ levels. Let's just get real high time frame here, right? I mean, there's some levels here that you could, like, wow, that would be a sick alt season. Like our thing that was 300, 400, 500% this spring, that was just that. So if you think about, if you want to see like a proper 2017 alt season, we're talking about 50% dominance. And that's probably driven by like an ETH 2.0 narrative. So those are the kinds of things I'm waiting on for now, focusing on Bitcoin price action. And of course, like if there's a news-driven alt or somebody whispers to me and says like, hey, FDM's about to announce a partnership with Jaguar, just like IOTA did, like whatever, then, maybe just playing that by ear. But as far as like spreading myself thin and risking all those sats against alts while we're in this window, not for me. And, I guess the analogy I used is like, there's always going to be risk in your trades, but are you going to sit at a blackjack table and get 17 and just say, hit me, dealer? Like, you might hit it, but the risk is pretty high, right? And if we're all about trying to like risk on, risk off analysis, to me, this is just time to chill out when it comes to trading against my Bitcoin.
Sounds good.
So that's my rant on sort of the dominance chart. And as you see, like ETH BTC is the other proxy, sort of an inverse to the dominance chart, and it is failing. It is just, bears broke down, bulls tried to come back yesterday. I actually got the alert that we broke back above, quick rejection. I imagine, even though the volume's kind of declining, I still think we would probably just settle down into here, at least sweep these lows at this point, seems likely. And it's not about trying to short to that level. I don't think this is a short location, but as far as just waiting is to get the long. There was a really nice short that I had in my channel from up here. So I'm out of that now. That was just picture perfect. I mean, you go up into the RLZ, you had the divergence, you get the structure fired. And actually the structure fired, you can see right here. And it gave you like 2 weeks and 3 chances, and it didn't even wash your stops. This was like the friendliest trade that Ethereum has ever put up for me. And yeah, I think small, like a 1% risker, but whatever, and just closed it out at this level here. So now it's back to wait and see. Next one will come in, and this is the pace of trading that yeah, right, Colleen, that was a nice one. It was like so friendly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chances to get filled. Never once took a stop out, even if you had it parked up here, obviously. But really nice tight invalidation, and it was so kind to not take our stops. So I think this is the pace that I've learned to start trading at. I think it works really well with the rest of my life. You get this like 2 weeks to basically get into a trade, sit on it for a few weeks, 2 weeks to get into a trade, sit on it for a few weeks. And if you're compounding that way, I mean, that's my goal. It's nice to be able to fire up like a day trade session on a Tuesday if you have the day off or whatever else you're doing. But lately, I've really just been enjoying more analysis, less trading, and sitting in positions longer and catching bigger moves. And my favorite quote to that effect is, money in trading is not made in the buying and the selling, but in the waiting. So, and that's what I'm getting better at. And I just noticed that it just, vibes with me a little better day to day, stress level wise. And it gives you more time to learn, right? You can read a book while you're sitting in this thing. Day trades, I'm just like sitting there sweating, staring at my computer for 7 hours. It wasn't pretty. So, but you can walk away on the day with some money, which is nice. Some people like that. I think that's it for my main charts. I guess the last one that I love looking at is this Bitcoin USD versus the US 30 index. We're still going strong. The decoupling narrative is there. We have broken out of this structure after a nice big downtrend break. And this is a weekly. So, I mean, that's a really cool signal. And I'm just watching this kind of week to week. And it's nice after that big move and come down, and we're still just plowing ahead. So we'll see. I mean, I think I actually just, on a more stock tip, which I don't usually talk about, I actually just moved an RSP or set up an RSP with Interactive Brokers. So I'm going to start managing my own RSP because it's sitting in a Wealthsimple right now, and it took a big hit here. It's really undid most of that hit. And I just don't really want to be like blind auto long into this market for the next whatever, year or two. I really, since this happened, I was like, man, when it gets up into these RLZs, I'm going to start thinking about, reducing the risk on that retirement portfolio and managing it myself. And even if that means missing something, like I'll just, I'll start trading it a little more actively with you guys.
As a Canadian, you should be watching the XIU. That's probably what you should be taking your cues off of.
Let's see. What's
XIU.
Oh, yeah.
So this is probably the chart that you should be focusing in on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the exposure on the Wealthsimple's like, but I imagine it's a pretty good mix of American stuff too.
Well, as a Canadian, right, we have foreign content concerns, so you have to be careful if you're going to play the S&Ps. This is basically the ETF for the Canadian stock market.
Okay. That's good to know. Actually, I should add this one to my little watch list.
Yeah, this would be like the Dow 30 or something like that for Canada. And nice. As your chart is suggesting, we've dead cat bounced straight up. You can all see the holes in the charts. If you were thinking about working bids, and probably no real hurry to chase. Actually, it might be interesting to look at Bitcoin versus Canada stocks.
That's what I just did, yeah. It's like, wait a sec. If this is our thing, what's the Bitcoin CAD pair looking like?
That's kind of cool.
Similar little breakout, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, you're going to see that correlation probably across most markets, but guess this is our big...
Somebody wants you to look at Link. Crazy. That's one of those.
Link Marines. Yeah, let's take a look. Link is in the short RLZ against USD. I did have a trade idea working on it. I never actually pulled the trigger. As you can see, that would have aged well, pretty much right along with Ethereum.
Wow.
I think depends what you're trading it against. Versus Bitcoin, it is back into, what I would be saying is a good location for looking long if you're thinking of a long-term long. Link has been really hard to catch up to, as you can see here. So it's not one, if you were sitting here drawing like RLZs off the bottom, like You might still get filled, but you've been missing it for a long time. So I think Link to me is one that is more on par with Ethereum in that realm of like really like stronger, higher cap project. So not opposed to, nibbling these RLZs along the way, as it looks like it's just entering into a big parabolic move.
Yeah. Maybe throw your bid in at the top of value there.
Yeah, let's see what
Be
the
careful.
market cap is. I don't even really know the FA kind of basic numbers. At a glance, there's still a lot of total supply out there. 1.3 billion. It's getting up there. I mean, this is a big coin now. It's not a joke anymore. And their thing, in my very limited understanding, is that they're basically going to be like the oracle that bridges the blockchain legacy gap between existing infrastructure and systems. And I'm not an IT guy, so I don't know exactly what that means. But they're basically partnering with every blockchain project in the world. And, that tells me that they're starting to be accepted as, they're going to be that de facto bridge. So that's pretty big. And if you're bullish on crypto and you're bullish on the bridge theory, instead of like a new system, it's going to integrate with the old system, then Link is pretty important. And, hey, it's a sweet spot. This is definitely not a time to like, if you're really bullish on long term, this is when I start to think about it. And then you've got your nice invalidation here. If you want to be a trader, if you want to be an investor, you can DCA. So that's my versus Bitcoin thought. But again, looking at this risk window, I'm not too keen on rushing into alts with my Bitcoin, but if I had some US dollars sitting around, this one is not in my buy zone.
Oh boy, yeah.
And my sentiment on Bitcoin and where I think we're going to maybe pivot, let's look where we could come down to. So this is, if I'm like trading versus USD and I've had a nice run and I want to like shed some risk, this is a great place to be thinking about getting out with like a get back in stop up here kind of thing, like a buy stop if you really want to play it tight. That's what I would be thinking about. And on a higher time frame, you can see we got lots of nice dips into the RLZ. These are the areas I'm thinking buy. So can we get back into another one? I would say I would probably draw the next one like this. And we're looking at $2.45 as sort of a alert level for me. And yeah, we're top of value, just above actually. So those are my thoughts, Craig. I think, I hate giving advice. I don't intend that as advice, but just my thoughts on where I'd be like, hey man, I'm going to actually set an alert here. Why not? Because I do like Link. I really think, I think it's got a great thing. If anything, this is one of those ones where I missed the very early days of it. So I always felt like I had missed it and never got in, which is silly thinking. It's actually a rule that I've set now. Don't pass on something if you think it's really strong just because you didn't get it at the penny, right? Or whatever. Because if it's in a bull and it's crazy, like, thinking about people that passed on Ethereum at $7 because they didn't get it at $2. So that kind of thinking, I've got to make rules on, set my analysis. If I think something's going to whatever, then don't worry if I didn't get perfect, just, DCA or whatever. So I do like Link and I do have that alert set now. So thank you. And if we do, crap out on the corn and everything else, Ethereum has been in this uptrend channel. It just broke out of it. It has not confirmed bearish structure below, so it's still intact. Tried to sneak in yesterday, and now it's still just falling off. So yeah, if the ETH wants to come down and hang out down here, that would be a big RLZ there. Kind of messing up these charts, but whatever. You can just undo them.
All right, we are past the top of the hour, sir. I think you've done an awesome report here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I love coming on, and I don't have I think they're actually undergoing a maintenance on the site. Oh, as I say that, okay, I'm going to post this in the lounge, copy link, and this is the link. I'll just click it up here. So this is the newsletter. So I think there's 6 issues already out. You can download free. Does some analysis, and it actually does touch on stocks, gold, oil, stuff like that too.
That's cool. Yeah, you want to throw that link into the lounge, and if people want to sign up for your newsletter, feel free to subscribe.
So I'm going to be contributing to this starting, I guess, next week. So pretty pumped for that, and it's completely free. So I'll share that with you guys in the lounge.
Okay, cool. Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Why don't we wrap today's presentation up? Excellent job, Colin, bringing the value. And looks like you got a special place in Colleen's heart, so that's always a bonus.
It's a name thing. Us, Colin, Colleen, Colleens, we have to stick together.
All good. I love to see, to be perfectly honest with you, I love the fact that Colleen is hung in here, and she's dogged and determined, and it always puts a smile on my face when I see her here. So, all good. She ain't going anywhere. Well, I love the attitude. All right, everybody. As I had sort of suggested earlier, Colin's presentation, excellent job, of course. We do have these tops on the lower time frames working. And we're coming into the end of the retail session here for Friday. My hunch is that they're probably going to take it quietly into the close, but we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. And we've been, and I think the tone that I heard out of Colin is kind of the similar what I'm kind of thinking right now. Is as I had said through his presentation, I do like the idea of strapping on some hedges just to make sure that your butt is covered. And what I'd really like to see out of all of these is we gotta clean up the damage that's been done. This is actually, in my opinion, an environment where the technical damage has been done. And now we have to wait for the actual bull to start saying, yep, I'm still fully in charge here. Okay, guys, PMA for the win. Thank you so much, Colin. Brilliant presentation. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. Kevin and I will head off and do our little update video. We'll see the level 2ers in about 2 hours for your introductory class. You get to know your instructor. Also, too, you guys are lucky you got Marat as your TA, so you already have him from last term. You should be nice and familiar with him. I'll just bump in and just see Linda's supporting hand if needed. Welcome to the jungle, level 2ers. Get ready to rock and roll. Level 3ers, we'll have our first introductory class tomorrow. So look for those emails and notifications tomorrow morning for our hangout. And level 1ers, of course, you've got your first session with Grim this morning. With Grim Sunday morning. All right, everybody. So school's already up and running. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Let's all work together. All the best, and the only thing left for Brian to say here at this point is a big bye for now.